This female's process is actually a process of yearning, meaning that the cannabis plant actually is yearning to pollinate or yearning to actually populate and create with the male plant, which is actually absent. Any person who's ever grown weed knows that the first thing you do is never allow any male plants to be around the female plants. If you can see this plant on an energetic level, what you would actually see is the divine feminine itself. That means that for those who choose to utilize cannabis, it means that they're filling their body with the divine feminine. And this is often why cannabis is often used to sort of patch the hole in people's reality of where they're not getting that divine feminine energy. Cannabis can become somewhat of a panacea or cure-all for people's situations and things that they're dealing with in life. If they're experiencing anxiety, they may smoke cannabis. If they're bored, they may smoke cannabis. If they feel uncreative and dull, they may smoke cannabis. And so what happens is the reason why this plant has become so popular in use is because the reality itself and our interactions with the organic feminine forces has been at an all-time low. And the one thing I'll say is that this is not a male and a female thing. I want you to understand that the divine feminine goes much more further than just the human female. As we've talked about, it's even the cat has a female. Even we see plants have a female. We see frogs, there's females. So it's what's behind those eyes, the force that's behind those eyes that we're talking about, that fills up every single body, whether you're quote unquote a male human or a female human. So at any point where we lack that divine feminine force, whether it's the love from our mother or our grandmother, whether it's the love from a significant other, and what we even see in a moment is whether it's the lack of creativity at any aspect, whether that's having a child or having what we would say is a project that you're passionate about. You can see how these days you have this excessive use of this substance that's filling people's body with this creative force, i.e. dark matter. Because the dark matter is the womb. It cultivates. It creates. What happens if we get filled with this force, but we're not creative? So this is why excessive cannabis use also leads to a person being much more sexual. So how do you balance out this type of energy? Well, it's very simple. What we'll find is that within every human being, there is the ability that we've been endowed with, which is to be more creative than just people who reproduce. You know, as the first command is reproduce or be fruitful and multiply. But as human beings with this great mind and consciousness that we now have this ability to invent. We can paint. We can play music. We can print things. You know, there's 3D printing. There's many different things that we can begin to engage in that actually are other expressions of our creative force. But if you lack that outlet, what can happen is you will become bottled up. And like I said, it's not just cannabis. It's just the cannabis theory. It gives us a good stamp to put on it, so that way we recognize it in other aspects. Because we can find that we will begin to abuse certain things or overuse certain things. We can even do that with each other. You could make a person your cannabis. Every time you feel anxiety, you call them. Every time you're hurt, you call them. Every time you're bored, you call them. But what's really being desired is that you tap into that creative force and begin to create something within. So that way you become addicted to self. This